Okay, day 5 just took this case somewhere I didn't expect it to go, because today the jury didn't just hear somebody talking about Keefe D. They heard Keefe D talking about himself. And this time, it wasn't just a police interview. Now, the jury was presented a BET documentary where Dwayne Keefe D. Davis publicly talked about Tupac's murder and his own involvement surrounding the events of that night. And prosecutors are making it very clear why they want the jury to hear this. Now, remember that confidential 2008 interview we've been talking about? Davis' defense says that those statements were essentially stories he told to gain leverage and attention. But prosecutors are pointing to something very important. Years later, Davis was publicly telling a similar story. And today, the man who directed the documentary took the stand. Mario Diaz testified about Davis' participation in the project, and he told the jury Davis was paid for appearing in it. We're talking about potentially thousands of dollars for his participation. And you can actually see Davis reacting in the courtroom as his defense attorney questioned the filmmaker about exactly how much money Davis received. Now, here's where the defense is trying to turn this whole thing around. Their argument is basically, exactly, he was getting paid. That's why he was telling these stories. They're telling the jury Davis had every reason to exaggerate his involvement to sell books, appear in documentaries, and keep his name attached to one of the biggest mysteries in hip-hop history. But prosecutors are saying maybe he wasn't making it up. Maybe he was finally telling the truth. And then the prosecution even went further. After the filmmaker testified, the jury heard another recorded interview Davis gave to police back in 2009, where he again described being in the Cadillac with Orlando Anderson and the other men as they encountered Tupac and Suge. So think about what the jury is hearing. A police interview, a documentary, another police interview, and a man who is now sitting in the court saying some of these stories weren't true. The man who told the story years ago, or the man sitting in that courtroom today saying those stories weren't the truth. Because if the jury decides his old stories were credible, that could be a serious problem for the defense. But if they decide Keefe D was simply telling stories for money, attention, and notoriety, the prosecution has a much bigger mountain to climb. And we're only 5 days into this trial. So the question tonight is simple. Are we finally hearing the truth about what happened to Tupac?